Hi guys, welcome to the Citizen channel. I hope you're all staying safe and well. Please, if you are new to this channel, please push that subscribe button. We do everything city, past and present here on these little vlogs, so I do try and inform and entertain, and there's some links on screen as well for Facebook and Twitter where I do post loads of city stuff. So if you follow and friend me on there, I do check every few days and follow and friend everyone back. And if you do get a chance, please have a check out my film and TV channel as well, which I try and inform and entertain on there, and all the latest films and TV drama here in the UK and from around the world. So if you can check that out, that will be fantastic. Anyway, hope you enjoy today's feature. Welcome, yes, welcome to this latest City at the Movies feature. Yeah, I think if we're going to talk about City at the Movies and you ask the majority of, or say 100 City fans, I think the majority would say this little film, of course, there's only one Jimmy Grimble, is probably the sort of main one they would think about. I mean, you're talking, obviously I cover TV things in this and stuff like that, but I think if you just said to someone City at the Movies, what do you think? All right, they might say The Keeper, the new Troutman one. I've done a review on that many months ago, but yeah, I think this is the iconic one that stands out in everyone's mind, young and old. You know, us guys of the older age, and certainly youngsters should sort of look for this as well. And we'll talk about that later anyway. But yeah, I think even fans of British-based drama as well. There's a lot of love out there for this one, not just from City fans, from people who like a good quirky British sort of nice easy watch comedy drama. It was 105 minutes. That's a little bit about it first. It was a 12 certificate, and it was about Jimmy Grimble, of course, who dreams of being a good footballer. If he was, life would be easy. Well, so he thinks. He'd find a nice girl, wouldn't get bullied at school, more on that in a bit, and if he was really good, he may even be offered an apprenticeship with his team, of course, Manchester City. But Jimmy's rubbish at football. Yeah, one day, however, things begin to change for Jimmy. I don't think he's that rubbish. I think, as I say, the old theme to this at the end obviously comes out, but I think his confidence. I think his confidence with our Jimmy. He does get chosen to play for his school team and scores a magnificent goal, of course, and gains a confidence that touches and brightens the lives of those around him. But we know why he scores that goal and what influences that, don't we? But that's a synopsis to the actual story itself. As far as the stars were concerned, some good young stars in this. Not the greatest actors, let's be honest about it. We had Lewis Mackenzie, of course, playing Jimmy Grimble. We had Jane Lapater as Alice Brewer, the old woman and owner of the famous boots, the Billy's boots. If you used to buy the Tiger like I did as a kid, that used to be one of my favourite comic things in that. The Billy's Boots feature was always one of my favourites, as most lads were of that age. Gina McKee stars as Donna, Jimmy's mum. I do like a bit of Gina. Ben Miller as Johnny Two Dogs. Yeah, it took me a little while to try and figure out who he was when I rewatched it back. But yeah, old Ben Miller as Johnny Two Dogs. That's Gina's new boyfriend. Kieran Griffiths as Psycho. Of course, one of the team, and Gordon's United sidekick, isn't he? Bobby Power as Gorgeous Gordon, of course. Gorgeous Gordon Burley. He's sort of a United fan, a bit of a thug, obviously, as well as a good player. Robert Carlyle as Eric Wirrell, the PE teacher and ex-City player, obviously, we find out in this. Ray Winston as Harry, who took Billy to his first City match, and previous love interest of Jimmy's mum as well. Not Billy, Jimmy. I'm getting on. Let's call him Billy or Jimmy. It's the same thing, isn't it? Billy's boots. Yeah, Jimmy's mum took Billy to his first Maine Road match. John Henschel, of course, big City fan, as Ken Burley, Gordon's dad and the school team's benefactor. Job McCardle as the headmaster, and Samia Longchambon, that's how you pronounce it. Of course, she was, I remember watching her in Coronation Street, but she was Jimmy's love interest in this. Was it any good? How did it rate at the cinema? How did it rate with the critics and the public? Well, I just rechecked again now at the 2nd of August in the UK, 8 p.m. UK time. It's got a Rotten Tomato positivity percentage of 71%, so that's not bad, is it? 6.9 out of 10. I'll take that. 5 fresh reviews and 2 rotten. I didn't even bother looking at the rotten, obviously. United fans. Audience got a good healthy 4 out of 5, so you're talking 8 out of 10. An Internet Movie Database, which is obviously everybody is on there, public and critics alike. It scored an average of 6.6 out of 10, which is healthy, very healthy for a film. And that was based on 3,721 scores and reviews left. and of those 3,139 scored it 6 or more, which means it's very watchable. So that's 84% of people who watched There's Only One Jimmy Grimble liked it, let's be honest about it. So how did the film actually play out? This is what we do in this little feature. We just sort of have a look at it. I mean, if you've not watched the film, there's a bit of a spoiler alert in this. There's lots of different information given to you. So, you know, put this down and go and watch it and then come back to me afterwards. But if you've never watched it, but I can't believe there's any City fans out there not watched this. But if you have anyway, I mean, go back and watch it again. It's I've probably watched it a dozen to 15 times over the years myself. But yeah, so this is a little look at how it affects and what we see of City, what we hear of City, what sort of resonates with me as well. There's certain things in this will resonate with me and other City fans, of course. And what sort of looks do we get at Maine Road? So let's have a quick look. I mean, it was released, it did coincide, it was about a year after, of course, United had won their momentous treble, not as good as ours, but, you know, they'd won a treble, and we sort of, yeah, they'd sort of peaked, and we weren't doing too bad, but it was literally a year after the playoffs, and it was also just as we got promoted back to the Premier League, so all was going okay at City. I'm not sure if we were already talking about moving to a new stadium as well at the time, but yeah, we were okay, it was okay for City fans, but yeah, the sort of opening sequence in this, obviously it's catering around the 2000-2001 season as far as the school team's concerned. But the opening sequence, you get Lewis Mackenzie's Jimmy juggling the ball, of course, right at the start of the film in his Eidos City home shirt, so that obviously dates it around 99-2000. Some rough grounds, flats in the background. A lot of this was shot around Oldham. I did notice the CIS building occasionally coming into it, so obviously you got the backdrop of Manchester as well featured in some of the scenes. The Charlatans, I think, is the soundtrack on the start of the film when he's juggling the ball, and he was absolutely useless at football, this lad. He was actually trained, obviously he got a special Brazilian type English trainer in to teach the tricks and everything, but apparently had 2 left feet. He didn't say he did. He said he could play football when he applied for the role, but yeah, within 6 weeks he had been doing not a bad job. And it was actually released to the cinema, I think, in August 2000. So that's when it came out. So obviously the start of our first season back in the Premiership then, wasn't it? After a couple of sort of seasons down with the dead men, obviously. Yeah, so it starts off with him going to school, and there's a lot of voiceovers in this, Jimmy talking. He talks about the problem of being a City fan in the heart of a Man U jungle. I think most young City fans, certainly from the 80s, my lad experienced that at his school. You know, there's probably 2 or 3 City fans in a class, and the rest were mainly United fans, but obviously he talks about that problem, and I say a lot of young City fans from the 80s, 90s, 2000s probably suffered that, but it wasn't my personal experience at school in the 60s and 70s. Obviously, as I say, we pretty much stood our ground. Lots of City fans for to the schools I went. Obviously in Withington, it was obviously nearby to Maine Road anyway, but then obviously I went to Parswood High, which again wasn't overly City or United. You know, it's a fair sprinkling, so it's not something I experienced, but I do appreciate it from my kids' point of view and from many City fans' point of view. The director sort of commented that he wanted a classic feel of good versus bad. Yeah, the goodies and the baddies, the black versus white. If you think of the old westerns, you know, used to have the old hero dressed in white, and the baddie gunslinger was always dressed in black. And he tried to do this with the use of red as the bad and blue as the good, of course. I mean, it's just normal thing to do with the shades of the colours. And of course, this towards the end of this first game, it ends with our poor old Jimmy legging it from these, well, certainly 2 of them are rags anyway. I assume that some of his hoppoles, Gordon hoppoles, are chasing him and Psycho and a couple of others. And of course, he gets caught and they end up pissing on his City bag. And obviously, if you think of the badges, the famous badges of obviously City people or United pissing on shirts on a badge, it's that sort of thing, isn't it? Which obviously comes to life in this little scene. And of course, this red bad, blue good is reiterated in the team trials that take place quite early, as Big Gordon there, Big Bully Gordon, in his sharp logoed United top, towers over a smaller, milder looking Jim in his Eidos City top, of course. And of course, Psycho is Hoppo. Yeah, that's Gordon's thug Hoppo. Obviously, I think he spits in Jimmy's face. It's not actual spit. I mean, it's a mixture of something. But obviously, he's got his a dark United shirt on, and he spits in Jimmy's face. So again, we get the good and the evil. It's a little bit lighter. 15 minutes in, we do get Jimmy singing Blue Moon, strolling down this pathway. And apparently he's the director's honouring a guy called Ravenelli who used to have his shirt over his head. And obviously Jimmy's obviously where he can see how he can see to walk. I'm not too sure. Perhaps you can see through the material. But he skips along a path singing Blue Moon, and obviously, embarrassingly, the girl of his dreams, a girl called Sarah, obviously spots him, and he's got his shirt tucked into his underpants. Quite embarrassing, really, for a guy who's trying to be sort of bit of the all street cred for a girl he really likes. But yeah, that was the first bit of really light-heartedness after all the bullying, etc., that we got to see. I mean, later on a wet, miserable night, it could be the same night, he's legging it again from an old, from these thugs, these United thugs, and an old lady, an old crone, they try to make her look a bit witchy, if you like, rescues him. And this is where he stumbles across the boots of Robbie Brewer. Yeah, and this lady tells him that he was an ex-City player. Obviously, it starts Billy thinking, but on his way home, he actually surprisingly dumps him in a skip, So he thought, well, there's the story. Billy's boot story's gone for a Burton straight away, hasn't it? But more on that in a moment, obviously. Then we meet Harry on flashback. We get a little flashback, and it's not too long ago, this, because obviously Billy's of a similar age, etc., etc. And Harry's a City fan. He's played by Ray Winston, of course, who took Jimmy to his first ever Maine Road game, and obviously we see him climb the main stand steps there at the back, and obviously he comes out opposite with the Kipax, the new Kipax, obviously exactly opposite, and you get that sort of feel with the camera going around of any young lads' sort of first impressions of going into the ground, whether it be Maine Road or the Etihad or God forbid Old Trafford or Anfield. It's that reaction, isn't it? The first time of actually walking in and just hearing the noise and looking out over the ground. And of course, Harry buys him that city bag that got peed on early on. Obviously, Harry's the guy who actually bought him that. So obviously, that's another showing that it's quite early. It was not too long ago when Harry was involved with it with his mum. But unfortunately, Harry, even though he's a City fan, is a little bit of a rogue. I mean, we do have them, there you go. And he was actually married at the time. He was seeing Jimmy's mum. So it sort of ended in tears. But obviously, as we know with the film, it will all come out in the wash and all get better for everyone concerned. So anyway, next thing you've got, obviously this comes back to Billy's boots and Mr. Brewer's boots, doesn't it? Gorgeous Gordon nicks Billy's boots and throws them into a dustbin cart on the way to the school's very first cup match. And of course, Billy's forced to leg it to go and get these boots out of the old skip he'd left him in the evening or 2 evenings before. I was lucky it was still there, obviously. Of course, the school kit is glorious blue without the badge, but glorious blue and white, absolutely fantastic. Obviously unsponsored, as in the late 60s and 70s, fantastic. I sort of ran a works football team for a while, and I bought us a lot of set of shirts, and I bought of course City shirts with a collar, and it was the 70s, 80s, so sort of big white collar. So obviously poor United fans had to play in it, but hey, I was in charge, so I did that. But it was great to see that kit. I would have liked to have seen the kit all the way through to the final, but obviously when it came to the final there was a change of that, but we'll talk about that later. Of course, Robbie Brewer, as far as Billy knows, Billy, I keep saying Billy. If I say Billy, I mean Jimmy, don't worry about it. Robbie Brewer had owned the boots, had played for City according to the old one, but Jimmy couldn't find him one of his stat books. He has a stat book, obviously found Peter Barnes, and he was looking around, he just couldn't find that this Robbie Brewer ever existed or played for City. So that's a bit of a mystery, obviously, throughout the film. There's a scene of the fans going down to the match about 40 minutes in, although on the City website there's a lot of complaints apparently that they were actually walking away from the match rather than going to it. But hey guys, it's a film. It's only a film, guys. Don't get too het up with the correctness of it. It's just a bit, it's just not real. It's just a film. So yeah, there's a lot of complaints apparently on various sites from City fans. Of course, most of the extras used were actual City fans who actually turned up for the free grub, and obviously later on for the final at Maine Road. Obviously, the same thing. You know, they just turned up for the pleasure of being in the crowd and getting a free bacon butty out of it or something like that. 43 minutes in, yeah, we actually get to see the outside of Maine Road, and interestingly enough, the director commented that it was hard to get an angle of the ground where it didn't look ugly. Cheeky swine. I mean, what cheek? How rude. But he said what he did was, obviously with a lot of things, whether it's the ugliest block of flats you could ever think of, if you get the magic hour when the sun's going down, it makes everything look really good. So that's what he did. That's how he got away with making Maine Road look nice. But to me, and I think many of us, even on a wet cold night in January, Maine Road looked wonderful. I don't care what anyone says. As Jimmy tries to find out about Robbie Brewer, of course, he approaches a steward who obviously is a United fan working at City, but that's a sort of trend for the film, to be honest with you. And he tells him that the guy living opposite the ground, yeah, on Maine Road there, one of the terraced houses opposite, may know a bit more and he may be able to help him. And he finds out, he knocks on the door, and it's actually Robert Carlyle, who's actually Billy's PE teacher, Eric Wirrell. And it does turn out, obviously, they go into his house. He played for City in the late 70s. There's lots of City stuff around the room. They made this a set back in the studios, this one. Shirts from 76, which was lent apparently by Noel Gallagher to the production on the wall, and lots of pictures and images and footballs, etc. And obviously they made it look as though it's sort of gone back in time, this little room, and that's how sort of, if you think Eric Wirrell was, he was sort of playing on the fact that he was trapped in his past and he couldn't really move on. Of course, perhaps a lot of City fans were there. I mean, as I say, we got back to the Premiership, but perhaps, you know, to us as well, we were perhaps thinking back to the heady days of the 70s, weren't we? Even in the 90s, into the late 90s and early 2000s, we did hark back. So we were perhaps trapped a little bit, weren't we, in the past, you know? But hey, there you go. Of course, give it to bloody Gordon. That's the most famous tagline, isn't it? That was introduced about 50 minutes in, has become a well-known tagline, of course, to repeat as Gordon's dad, played by City fan, as I said, John Henshaw, takes over coaching the team briefly. Anyway, until teacher Wirrell begins to get his mojo back, and obviously encouraged by Jimmy, of course, who sort of starts to inspire Wirrell to actually start making more of an effort. Some of the football was apparently choreographed, etc., but you can't really, it's not exactly smooth flowing, some of it. It's not exactly great, even when you get to the final at Maine Road. But there's some nice little touches and dribbles. But it's hard unless you actually just play a match and just play it as it is with decent players. It's always going to look a bit silly. But there you go. I mean, almost an hour when we do actually briefly get see Jimmy in the white away top. Remember the IDOS white away top? We actually get him in that, but it's literally a split second. You blink, you miss it. But that's about almost an hour in. So have a look for that as well. Over an hour in, we get our first view of that United scout, of course, featured in the sort of climax, the climactic lines to the films, if you like, that we'll talk about in a bit, obviously. But he's watching the cup semi-final game. A couple of my lads' schoolmates were actually featured in the opposition as extras, playing in the game for that one. A couple of my lads' schoolmates in that cup semi-final that they shown. Sadly, the old lady that obviously gave the boots, Robbie Brewer's boots, to Billy, he's found dead later on, and as he goes round to try and get her to come to Maine Road to watch the eventual Schools Cup final, of course. And obviously it then reverts to Maine Road, and as it's cup finals, quite a few extras, quite a few City fans, although they do disappear a little bit from the background in some of the wider shots of the stands. Is sort of supporters sort of dotted about, and then all of a sudden you get some scenes in the film where there's nobody in the ground, but while they're playing. But that's obviously an editing problem. You just got, we'll go with the flow. Didn't have a big budget for doing this. I mean, of course, they get the new kits and they get a darker blue, don't they? A bit laser blue, you'd call it, wouldn't you? Have a look at that. Perhaps a little bit darker than our laser blue, though. But of course, with the white sleeves again, still in line with the City kit that we wore at the time. And City's Maine Road changing rooms, yes, I did look at them and think that's not the changing rooms. No, they were far too smart apparently for the film, so they did actually go to another sports centre to actually use their changing rooms to stand in for the City changing rooms. We get a nice image of the blue and white tiled toilets, yeah, light blue and white tiled toilets. Obviously, they look as though they're in the main stand. I might be wrong there. I didn't have many games in the main stand. I could almost smell the urine as I watched that little piece, and I don't think they washed their hands either. That's disgusting, but hey, there you go. Of course, Gorgeous Gordon still a bit bitter. He gets rid of Jimmy's boots, of course, in a fit of jealousy, and he's probably now the only player who hasn't sort of warmed to Jimmy and stuck up for him. Even Psycho, his sidekick, has sort of fallen in line of liking Jimmy now over his obviously his success over the last 2 or 3 games for the school team, and he has to have new boots, doesn't he? Because he's lost his boots. He's not very happy about it because he's lost his magic boots. But Alan Oakes looks over a small souvenir shop again. The City souvenir shops were too bright and big to actually for the sort of dark, not the darkness, but for the style of the film. So that was actually a studio set again with the Alan Oakes watching over all the gear in this so-called souvenir shop. The match itself, you see plenty of the old ground, of course, from the year 2000. Great to see with the scoreboard as well over the Gene Kelly seats in the in the far end as well, which say wasn't always there like that, was it? It was taken out to increase capacity again, wasn't it? We do get to see the pride again as Jimmy steps out onto the Maine Road pitch, as well as a supporter going in for the first time. I've done it myself. I've played on the Maine Road pitch, and to run out of it, all right, they ran out of they didn't run out of the actual tunnel, they run out of the side tunnel, but to run out of that middle tunnel is fantastic, and just run onto pitch is superb, and you get that feeling again with the camera panning round. Of course, Robbie Brewer turns out to be just a blind programme seller, and he was actually the City mascot, and that was his mum who'd obviously passed away, the old lady. He was a City mascot as a kid, obviously, and that's where the boots. So there's no magic in the boots. He wasn't a player himself. They were the boots he wore when he was obviously the City mascot. So yeah, so there you go. You've got Jimmy playing the game. They end up being 2-0 down. But obviously this big change, once Jimmy's realised that these boots aren't magic, perhaps it's him in him anyway. We do get Maine Road at night. We get Maine Road at night with obviously that sort of look of Maine Road, that little bit of hazy look in the sky, a little bit of rain in the air, that sort of hazy look that I remember so well. And of course, they come back from 2-0, the 6-yard box, and also was lacking a bit of grass, and obviously Jimmy's team go and obviously will win this 3-2, won't they? And we do have a pitch invasion at the end, and the director was guilty as he thinks some of the wear and tear to City's pitch for the rest of that season he felt a little bit responsible for. But with the pitch invasion and obviously the cameras and the things, the dollies they used, etc. But yeah, City themselves apparently were very good. They didn't say anything. They didn't say anything detrimental. They didn't complain at all, apart from the groundsman who, once the pitch invasion happened, sort of asked them not to do it again. So he wasn't very happy. But they never are, groundsmen, are they? Of course, we do get near to the finish, don't we? They won the cup 3-2, and obviously they're in the tunnel there, and you get the immortal lines that I think everyone knows, and we still quote now, don't we? And it's the United scout who says, Jimmy, how would you like to join us at Manchester United? And Jimmy said, that's very nice of you, but Mr. Worrell's told me I've got a better offer. And the scout says, what can be better than Man United, son? And Jimmy says, Man City. Yeah, absolutely spot on. I mean, absolutely. And even then we thought it was spot on. I mean, it didn't matter to us, no matter how good United were. As far as I was concerned, yeah, it was always better to join City than United. Of course it was, we're City fans. Of course, he gets the girl back. He gets his potential the new dad, I think, on the horizon as Harry comes back into his life with his mum as well. A cut win at Maine Road. There you go. Good on Jimmy. He got everything he wanted. It was a fairy tale, wasn't it? I think the actor was an actual United fan, I believe. I know a lot of the team were, that when they did I looked at the extras and they sort of 3 or 4 of them said they supported United, but hey, it doesn't matter, does it? It's a film. It's a film at the end of the day. And then the film finally cuts to a blue moon, doesn't it? It finally cuts over the pans over the Kippax. Got all the players on the pitch celebrating with Robert Carlyle. Then it pans over the Kippax, and the clouds part, and you get a blue moon, and it was definitely rising at that time, wasn't it? And it's continued to ever since. Yeah, as I said, essential viewing for reasonable football fans as well as City fans. Many critics actually said they thought it was better than Billy Elliot. That came out at a very similar time, if you remember. And a lot of critics and public said that they thought it was better, more better than actual Billy Elliot, which obviously got all the hype, didn't it? I think at the time, and I think this must be essential viewing even now for City fans. So as your City fan kids are growing up, if you've got any kids or related nephews, nieces, or friends or whatever, I think it's essential viewing for all City fans, and it's cheap as chips now to get hold of, isn't it? On DVD if you don't stream it or whatever. Okay, as I said, the acting's not the greatest, is it? And some of the football scenes don't quite work. Indeed, a little bit corny, especially that winning goal in the cup final. That obviously when the players are running up to him, he's in the background, and Gordon, who is onside by the way, he's not offside. It just smacks him in the face and goes in the goal. A bit silly, but this is a fairy tale, and as City fans at the time, we had no idea. We had no idea, did we, of the real life fairy tale that was going to begin to be played out for us within a mere 10, 11 years from the date of this feature. Anyway, thanks for joining for this look at There's Only One Jimmy Grimble. Please, what are we going to do? The rest of your day, please. All I ever ask you to do is please stay safe, Blues. Thanks for watching. Come on, City. Bye for now.